Tesla's Model 3 has just had a facelift. There's loads of new changes, and we're going to go through as many as possible. While over-the-air updates mean that the Model 3 has had regular technical upgrades since its European launch in 2019, in fact it's had more than 20 of those updates, this is the first time that there's been any physical changes to the car. The main thing you notice on the outside is the trim around the window line. Where it used to be chrome, it's now satin black. It's the same for the foot, door handles, and also up front where the cameras are. There's also said to be more efficient tyres and a lower rolling resistance. If you go for 18 or 19-inch sport alloys, then you get a slightly different design. Go for a Model 3 Performance, and you can now also get 20-inch Uber turbine wheels. So this is Tesla's facelifted Model 3, and there's been quite a number of changes. Some of the best ones are on the exterior where they've gotten rid of the chrome housing. They've got this kind of cool iPad style covers on the mirrors as well, and lots of different bits and pieces apart from the obvious software updates. As bright as this dash is, in general I do tend to switch them to night mode because I find them quite glaring at night. This one's not too bad. I don't find the night mode as easy to read for some reason. It's definitely been designed around having a white background. Now the grey is a nice touch as well. It makes it very easy to read, and I love these little icons here of the cars, people, motorbikes. It shows up everything. When you're driving along, it has these yellow lines to the side of it if it thinks you're getting too close to whatever is there at the side of the road, but on Irish roads that's pretty much everything. Now I'm on a dual lane road right now, so it's not showing up anything, but there, yeah, so there's traffic that I'm quite a good distance away from, and in some instances it's showing it up. But I love the way it shows you the difference between a van and a bus or a bike. Motorbikes going past are really cool. Also, these lights changing, so those are people that are walking past me in real time. The lights really are green ahead of me. The AI software is fantastic, and it's nice and smooth. There's no jitters or bugs at all. I haven't used autopilot yet, but I do intend on using it when it's not rush hour traffic. Spotify is great, really easy to use. Maps look just like Google Maps as well. Temperature, seat heating. So far I haven't found the range to disappear like it does on some models such as the Nissan Leaf. That's one model in particular for electric cars that I just found the range could just absolutely be obliterated on you. It is heavy though. It's a very heavy car. So I have driven some electric cars that are a lot lighter and you'd never know there were batteries underneath. It's great for a good sensor of gravity, but the Citroen EC4, you'd never know there were batteries underneath. I don't know what the range is like in the EC4 in comparison to the Tesla, but I loved the lightness and deftness to it. The Audi EQ4 is also, or the e-tron Q4 is also another car that's very heavy. You just really notice the weight. You can change the driving style, you can change the steering mode. It's really not that noticeable, to be perfectly honest. Just like a comfort, a sport. I'm not too sure there's a huge difference. I really love the quality of the reversing camera. It's absolutely fantastic, and you can leave it on if you want in traffic. So obviously I'm not in reverse right now, but I can see out the back to ensure that there's nobody doing anything silly behind me. But look at this, you can see the people in real time crossing in front of me, and then the light, there's a bicycle That is so cool. And at first I thought it would be strange with all the information I needed to the left instead of right ahead of me, but they've designed it in such a way that it's very, very easy to read. It handles the bumps and rough roads quite well. So this is one of the worst roads in Dublin, and it's just by Fitzwilliam Square. The road is in absolute tatters, but this is quite comfortable going over one of the roughest roads I know. There's a lovely texture on the steering wheel, and the controllers are very simple and very easy to use. Everything's been, so on your right you've got voice control, and you can click it and say turn on wipers. You can also scroll through menus using this left scroll wheel button here too. So these are two new additions to this facelift, which is a good thing. I would like to see the weight lightened up a little bit. I know it has it adds to the quality feel, but it could do with a little bit more deftness to it. The steering wheel is lovely, it's spot on, but again, you can make changes to the steering, but I'd like to see a bigger difference between the different steering styles.
The boot now has a power assisted tailgate, so it means you can remotely lift it all the way up via your phone, the touchscreen, or just the button itself, and it'll do all the hard work for you. You'll also be able to see some holes put into the piping around the boot, which means that on a rainy day, the water just drains away a bit better than it did before. There's also a new dual layer acoustic glass, which should make it quieter inside, and does. There are some pretty big physical changes inside, including a new scroll wheel on the steering wheel. There's also a graphite finish on the seat controls, and although they do still feel a little bit cheap and plasticky, a nice touch added is the sill plates, which are now black to match the exterior. The sun visors are also a little bit different. There's a slightly odd magnetic iPad cover that hangs over the mirror. What's new is that there's a magnetic strip in it, which means when you close it, it snaps back into place. The biggest change inside, however, is the center console, a piano black glossy finish which would attract a lot of sticky fingerprints used to irk some Tesla owners. It's now been completely redesigned, and they've replaced the piano black finish with some new plastics and synthetic leather. Up front, the cup holders have lost the chrome outline from before, and now there's a sliding black plastic lid instead, which has a high quality feel, and underneath it you've still got absolutely loads of storage space. On top of the dash, there's space for two smartphones, which are both able to wirelessly charge. You might also remember there used to be a couple of USB ports under the flip lid in the center console, where you could plug in an external hard drive. If you're wondering where you can do that now, the port's in the glove box, and a recent software update means you can assign a PIN code to lock it. The front trunk is a little bit smaller than it was before, but it's still a usable size. With front trunks, the reason it's smaller is because the new facelifted Model 3 has a heat pump, a more efficient way of heating the interior of the car that requires less energy from the battery. So, if you're in cold conditions and you're driving, when you're heating the interior of the car, this facelifted Model 3 should have a longer electric range than the pre-facelift Model 3 in the same conditions. You also now can travel further from a full charge in every version of the Model 3. With EVs, every mile counts, so being able to add a little bit more on top is always very good indeed. The double glazing makes for a slightly quieter interior, but it was already a quiet car to begin with. The center console is really going to be the main talking point of this refresh, And really, it does lift the interior quality because the piano black finish trim from before would get messy. This isn't part of the facelift, but something useful has been updated in the Model 3 recently and is worth pointing out, which is the side repeater cameras. You get your reversing camera, which you've always had, but now you effectively have a view of your blind spot, and it's really useful. You can set it so that when you're on the motorway and you indicate, it gives you an extra view and effectively becomes a blind spot monitoring system. Although not officially a blind spot monitoring system, it's useful to have. The Model 3 is a really interesting car to drive and an easy car to live with as well. This is mainly due to the near 600-kilometer range and also crucially because of the unbeatable supercharger network with fast charging speeds on offer. It remains the case that the Standard Range Plus isn't the best version of the Model 3. That would still be the range-topping performance version. The facelift hasn't completely revolutionized the Model 3, but it totally didn't need it. It's a really brilliant electric car. These little changes here and there improve things even more and give it a slightly different cosmetic look to which some people might prefer. And so it really remains one of the very best electric cars out there.